Okay, and we're live on episode 10 of Nature's Epions podcast. And this is also episode X, which will be
X-rated.
paranormal. Yeah, X rated, paranormal inspired, and because it's close to Christmas, it's going to be like the Xmas Christmas special. And I have with me two former guests,
There's two
Scott.
people?
Scott, loyal, faithful, good friend, always
Scott.
reliable. And
Very
then
reliable.
then there's
Okay.
Tommy, who by
Always
all
on
accounts
time.
is pretty much just an asshole.
Asshole. Oh, shit. Is that going to be the first topic of the night?
Did you
No.
introduce him like that on his solo episode? I don't remember. And here's
No,
my
you didn't
asshole.
give me that kind of warm welcoming.
He's really grumpy because we're keeping him up past his bedtime. And
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
8:30 lights out.
so today's topics, this one is going to be called, the first topic is the Beast of J Vudon. Have any of you heard of this before?
No.
Definitely not.
No,
Definitely
okay.
not.
So this
Okay, end of topic.
end of topic.
To the
Okay,
next
no,
one.
listen. This was a real thing that happened. This isn't like Bigfoot or like some sort of cryptid thing. Well, it kind of leans into that a bit, but this was like a real historical count. But they still don't really know what the fuck it was. So it's interesting as fuck. So this was
this
a
guy that was like eating everything?
no. I just thought that was a creepy ass fucking Wikipedia page I came across. I was like,
Oh.
what the fuck is this?
Yeah, that was cool.
So then, so this was about a man-eating animal. It terrorized the French province of Gevaudan from 1764 to 1767. So this is present-day Lozera in the Marzaride Mountains in south-central France. Yeah, so it covered an area spanning 90 to 80 kilometers. It's said to do it had a bunch of attacks, and they don't know if it was just a single animal or if it was multiple. Most descriptions identify the beast as a hyena, a wolf, a dog, or wolf-like dog hybrid, but a lot of the accounts said it was like a wolf, yet not a
Wolf-like
wolf.
dog. What?
Yeah.
A
so,
wolf-like dog hybrid?
Yeah.
It just means a small wolf.
No, but it was big. So,
It's just, yeah.
and it often killed by having the throats torn out of the victims.
Were the victims adults?
Yeah, some of them were adults, some of them were children, but most of them were alone and like tending to like cattle or like livestock in the field.
Wasn't there a movie on this and a person, were they found by train tracks? The bodies? How about that?
No, I don't think so. I don't think they had.
They're like on their own properties and stuff. Like,
I don't
Yeah,
know.
it
I
was
feel
all
like
on,
there
like,
was a
their
movie
farms
about
and
this,
stuff.
but yeah.
So
what did they do? They found a bunch of people with their throats gouged out by something, and no
no,
one's
like
even,
they were torn
did
out. Like it was like an
did they
animal
actually?
attack.
Are there like a lot of accounts of this animal actually like
So
killing people and people witnessing it?
Okay, so in 1967, a study estimated that there were 610 attacks, 500 deaths, 49 injuries, 98 of the killed only were partly eaten, and other sources give estimates of only 60 to 100 deaths, and more than just maybe 30 injuries or a little bit more. So
And they think it's by the same animal creature, not multiple, right?
well, so they think it might have been multiple because it was reported that it had been killed several times before the attacks finally stopped. So, so what I guess like the king of the time or whatever, he had commissioned like royal soldiers and like all these like different like people to like huntsmen and stuff to go find this like creature that was responsible for the attacks. And each time they like sent out like a brigade of people. They would kill a wolf or a large wolf or something like that, and they'd be like, "Oh, this is probably the one that was responsible for it." But then, some time when like a few days have passed, there'd be like another fucking attack, and they'd be like, "No, you guys didn't get it. That was a different one."
Wow.
Yeah. So.
So you think it was like a bunch of like wolf packs, all rabid or something, or is this thing like killing adult men and gouging their throats out? So you're saying it's some kind of werewolf creature?
See, I don't want to like lean too much into the paranormal right now, but I'll give you the description. Descriptions vary and they're likely exaggerated due to public hysteria, but they're always generally wolf-like or canine. Tall, lean frame, took very great strides. Size of a calf, cow, or horse, depending on the account. So
What?
that's a pretty broad range of height.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it was also mostly described as having an elongated head, like a greyhound, flattened snout, pointed ears, wide mouth, sitting on top of a broad chest. Tail notably longer than a wolf's, with a prominent tuft at the end, sort of like a lion, I guess.
And they never found this thing, obviously.
No, they found it. I mean,
they did
there
find
was,
it. There's
yeah,
pictures of
eventually,
it?
well, not pictures, but there's like, they didn't have the camera back then, but there's like,
What, in
there's like paintings and
1970s?
stuff. No, this was 1700s. 17.
I thought at one point you said 19. That's why.
Oh
I
no,
got
no,
confused.
okay, no. There was a study done in 1987 of all the
Okay,
historic
sorry.
accounts from like historical sources and like writings and stuff like
Yes,
that,
yes.
and then they determined it must have been at least this many attacks. But like wolf attacks were common back then anyway. People fucking hated wolves. Like that's
Oh,
why they're in
yeah.
so much like folklore and
Yeah.
stuff.
Of course. Like they're building villages right in the middle of a forest on all sides. There's so many wild animals back then.
Yeah, but
Like villages were terrorized by wild animals all the
Yeah.
time. So when they're going after people just out on the outskirts, tending to their fences and stuff, like who cares? It could be a bunch of animals. And from accounts that long ago, it's always like exaggerated, like the study pointed out, right?
yeah. There's a lot of people that speculated that it was like a wolf that bred with like one of their mastiffs. There was like a whole bunch of
know, man.
accounts
Like-
where it's like they said maybe it was a lion, like it's somehow a lion came up from like I don't even know, like
Whenever I hear something about like this type of thing, or even like a human feet or anything like that, if the history goes back before the 18th century or 19th century, then it's been changed so many times. You know what I mean? Like I'd rather hear this happening in like the 60s or 70s or something. Then
yeah.
I'd be like, oh shit, okay, this is much more recent and maybe not as exaggerated accounts.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's just like there was historical records of it. Like it was well documented, better than like they didn't say it was like a supernatural force or like a paranormal force. Like they just chopped it up to being like a wolf, but they call it the beast because they don't actually really know. They just like it's like was it some sort of like divergent like it had like some sort of like genetic throwbacks to like I don't know like a dire wolf maybe, or was it like I don't know. You could get into the paranormal stuff about it if you want now to celebrate the Xmas. So like the paranormal stuff would be werewolf obviously is like the number one. There's like Skinwalker Ranch type shit you could get into, like Dogmen or something. Or you could be like some sort of prehistoric like throwback or something, I don't know. There's all that different stuff, but what do you guys reckon it was? Just like a
Like I
fucking
said,
wolf?
I'd say it's wild animals, whatever, and the stories got exaggerated.
Pull up the Wikipedia page. Pull up the Wikipedia page.
Okay.
I
Spell it
wouldn't think too much into this.
out. Yeah.
It's Beast of J Vaudan.
Yeah.
Listen,
Well,
there's
a
more.
movie and
There's more
everything.
credence to this that I'm giving it because I just didn't. It required royal intervention. Okay.
They had top artists to sketch this thing. Top artists. Anybody see the first picture?
I like
It
the.
looks-
Oh
Yeah,
my God.
I don't know.
That's not a
Royal
wolf.
intervention. There's a statue too of somebody
Oh, look.
fighting it.
The main hypothesis is, according to modern scholars, public hysteria at the time of attacks or contributed to widespread myths that the supernatural beasts roaming Gevaudan, but the deaths attributed to the beasts are more likely the work of a number of wolves or packs of wolves. Yeah. And attacks by wolves were a very serious problem in the area. Exactly. Yeah. Whatever. People like it's like big fish story. Oh, look, I killed this wolf.
Read the
Yeah.
next line. Read the next
Take a
line
picture.
after that hypothesis. You fuck. Read the next one.
I did. Attacks by wolves were a
No,
very
no,
serious
no. The
problem
next
in
one.
the area.
In 2001, the Frenchman naturalist.
I fall in this. Okay, 2001. Okay, where does it even start there? Okay, yeah. In 2001 talk. Okay.
Did you see it?
Yeah.
Under hypothesis?
Canis lupus italicus.
The French naturalist Michael Lewis proposed a red-colored mastiff belonging to Jean Chastel sired the beast, and its resistance to bullets may have been due to it wearing an armored hide of a young boar, and thus accounting for its unusual color. That doesn't make any fucking sense.
Who
You
knows,
know,
man?
I have a feeling they're keeping this story alive so they can get some tourism in that area. There's really not much happening in that town if you Google it now. And it's just farmland.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's probably what they're doing.
You think the hypothesis of a red-colored mastiff wearing a boar hide isn't true?
You know what? You book the flights, we all go. All right? You book
We
it
need it. We need it.
and pay 60%
Yeah.
of my flight. I'll pay the rest. All right?
60%.
You pay 60, I'll pay 40.
You can't go even 50.
And we can camp there. It'll be cheap.
The weather would be great for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm closing
This
that
time of year in France? Oh, yeah.
All right.
Gevaudan,
You got to do it to get the wolf, man. Think about the pros here.
be the wolfman. Yeah. The
I
one who
am the
controls it,
wolfman.
buddy, has all the power.
Okay. So I don't know. I guess that's fucking.
What are
it
you
for that
drinking right
topic.
now? That's the question.
Yeah, we gotta talk about that.
What are you drinking right now?
Black Light, all night stout. It's got a fucking moth on it. Looks pretty fucking badass.
You've been drinking a lot of craft beers lately, haven't you?
Yeah, I've
I see on
been
your
dabbling.
Instagram, you're like, yo, check this out. Check this out. And I'm like, fuck. A lot of strange beers.
Barking Squirrel was pretty good. The other one, not so
Mhm.
much.
Yeah.
Barking Squirrel was surprisingly good, but it had like, I don't know, it wasn't really beer. It had some junk into it, but you can't taste it. So, what are you drinking, Tom?
I just got plain old Heineken. Heineken.
That's boring.
Nice bottle. I'm working tomorrow, buddy. It's not a late night. It's not anything. I'm
Yeah.
just.
Okay, I got one more topic.
We don't know what Scott's drinking.
What's Scott drinking?
Yeah. What the fuck? Good old fashioned Budweiser. I brought a bunch of beers for hockey, tall boys, and I still had some leftovers, so that's it.
Oh, nice. What day is it
Yeah.
today? I'm so out of the loop. It's
Dude,
Monday.
yesterday at hockey, I just gotta tell you, 2-2, right? We got I got an assist on our line.
nice.
Ogilvy scored, I think, and then whatever, but it was 2-2. Banging in front of the net. I'm in front of the net all the time, playing center. Puck comes to me, kind of bounced off the goalie. I hammer it in 5-0 for a 3-2. It was good.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice. It's a
and
good
then
feeling.
yeah, later on, Kinner just threw one in with Logan. Guys almost fighting on the ice and stuff the whole time. It was a good game.
Classic, yeah.
Yeah, and Katya was watching. So as soon as I scored, it was like right in front of her, right? So I look up, she's cheering. So I pointed my stick at her, you know. I was like, "Yeah, it's for you, baby." And then and then right away, Haas was like, "Dude, did you just like point at your girlfriend?" And I was like, "Yeah, I told her I was gonna score a goal for her." And then later on, after Logan was like, "What the fuck was this, man? Who are you shooting at with your stick?" He's like, "It's my girl. I said I'd score for her." And then he's like, "Oh, cool." I'm like, whatever. Just chirp me about it.
That's all good.
That's hilarious.
The
Yeah,
point of
and
it.
then
Have fun.
when Kinner scored the next goal, he goes over and I was watching him, and then he just scored. And he's like, "Yeah," and he goes celebrates with Logan, and then after Haas on the bench was like, "Oh, dude, as soon as Kinner scored, he pointed at your girl." He said he pointed I was like, "No, he didn't, you fucker." I was watching him. He's like, "Yeah, he did, man. Yeah, he did." You can take that. He's trying to get me going.
Cut your grass.
Yeah, it was like he's trying to get me going, but yeah, it was jokes. It was a good feeling, yeah. And then
Okay,
I was like,
nice.
"Oh yeah, Katya, like I score all the time. Like every game I score, you know." Like,
Yeah.
On
not a
your
big
own
deal.
net.
Normal. Sure.
Yeah. Do you miss hockey?
Is Tommy not playing anymore?
Yes and no. I don't.
Tommy was Tommy was on my line with Lorelli for like 4 seasons
It's
in
some
a row.
good. We had some good times.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'll be back next year. I don't even know. Things are getting busier. Just
Why'd Tom stop?
it's not something I grew up with, right? So, just working away, buddy. Got the house. Gotta focus on this right now.
Oh,
I don't want to
true.
get distracted any other way. This is first year, right? Second year almost. So
Fair
that's
enough.
it.
Yeah, gotta dig yourself out of that pit. It takes like 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, it
It's
won't be
not
bad.
fun.
I'm getting there. Another year. I think I'll be in a good spot.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
It's all
man.
good.
100%. Probably be there by halfway next year. You'll probably feel a lot better about it.
I think so too. Yeah, it's not bad. A good spot. I'm definitely happy. Are you kidding me? I just saw shit
man.
that sold around here in my neighborhood. I'm like, yeah, definitely happy.
No, you did good, man.
Yeah,
All
you
good
did good.
decisions. Really good.
Yeah. You did the best thing possible, and you busted your ass. I remember when you were looking to buy, man. You were constantly fucking looking and going and doing it, and like just like juggling constantly, basically all these things. And
dumped his condo at a good time. Perfect.
Yeah, it worked out. No complaints.
Yeah,
the only thing I'd want is a 2-car garage. That would be my goal. That's my next goal. 2-car garage.
Yeah.
Fucking car garage.
There's always the next goal, right? There's always the next fucking.
Yeah, there definitely. Whatever, we'll get there.
Definitely.
Slowly but surely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys want me to go into this next topic?
Let's hear it.
All right. So this is because of the Christmas theme, and I really try to tie something into Christmas. And I don't. Yeah, so this is going to be. Have you heard about Clockwork Elves or Machine Elves?
I've heard that name before. I can't tell you what that
is. Okay, so these are the entities, or like the spirits that people encounter when they take DMT, or dimethyltryptamine, or ayahuasca. And the trippy thing about them, or these things, is that it's like a shared hallucinogenic experience. A lot of people encounter elves or jesters or like some sort of entity or like spirit or something like that, and it's just it's like a really odd thing, but it could just be kind of like a cultural, like, I don't know, like relevant like thing to encounter, and then that's why it's like in their minds, so that's why they encounter it. But nonetheless, it's like a kind of like a shared psychedelic experience in a way.
Well, another interesting thing is, especially with DMT compared to other drugs, is that common element, because that elf or that it's always some kind of helper and almost like a guide and trying to teach them a lesson, and usually it's a positive lesson, something very profound or prophetic, like, oh, pollution is going to destroy the world or something like that, you know, more poetic, but with big notes like that. And it's always like a common guide, and it's really interesting. People always have that similar experience with DMT.
Yeah, so to know more about it, because I don't know what Tom knows or people listening to this.
I know nothing, dude.
Okay, so it's produced naturally in like many plants and animals, including humans, in very small amounts. It obviously doesn't like trigger like psychedelic experiences or whatever, but maybe when we sleep we do experience a little bit more of it. But its nickname is the spirit molecule.
Yep, Netflix movie, watch it.
Yeah, so DMT can inspire like a bombardment of visual shapes and colors when you first take it. It's like a kaleidoscope of colors. It's like it feels like, apparently from all accounts, that it's taking you into another realm or like another dimension of some sort. That's what a lot of people reports, like what they're feeling. So basically, like at its peak, it feels as though you gain entry into another realm and you feel like you're in a different world. And they like part of that like profound experience is like apparently it's something similar to or on par with an ego death, where you kind of lose all your semblance of your ego and you kind of just like allow either yourself, or if you're like into like the paranormal, like the spiritual entity, basically call you out on your bullshit. So if you're doing something that's like not good for you, or you're like you're too uptight, or you're too like you take yourself too seriously, you don't know how to take a joke, like this experience will kind of reflect on that. It's like, hey, you need to lighten up, you need to be more open to jokes, you need to be more outgoing, you need to stop being so antisocial. Like it kind of really breaks down the ego, and they basically just assist in calling you out on your bullshit, and they communicate information to you. Yeah, so a lot of people have reported like tranquility or oneness, but there also has been some occasions where people experience fear, authoritative presence, negatively judged, maliciousness, or feeling unwelcomed.
Bad trip.
Yeah, so I guess you could have a bad trip and not just a positive trip. So that's kind of interesting. So then there's a couple of books out there to read. So there's or research papers to read. There's Dr. Rick Strassman, who's a psychedelic researcher. He authored the book DMT, the spirit molecule. There's Dr. Jennifer Like, who conducted a survey on DMT and the entities that exist within it, possibly, or people that have like these shared like entity like experiences in 2019. And then there was a study published in the Journal of Psychological Pharmacology with a research team that was led by Alan Davis. So there has been like some documentation into like meeting entities under psychedelic experiences and those kind of things. So I guess I'm just trying to say that
I think you should go for it, buddy.
I'm not going to do it. I don't
I
want
think
to
you
do
should,
it.
though.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I think like
You're the guy.
Definitely.
I'll
another guy.
monitor. I'll monitor for sure.
okay, listen, when I thought about doing it, I was like, you
I'll
know
even
what?
pay for it. I don't know where to get it, but I'll pay for it. If you're gonna let me monitor it, no problem.
Okay, when I first started looking into this topic, I did so because I always kind of wanted to and I wanted to experience it. But then the further I went down the rabbit hole into like looking this stuff up and reading about it, the less it made me want to do it. And
For sure.
I started getting
I know,
like
some
when I
some
got it,
I think you're
researchers
overthinking
and scientists
it.
of yeah, but some of those scientists and stuff are like, oh, we don't know what we got ourselves into. Like, look how deep this goes, and how serious this is. You know.
so in South America they have ayahuasca, right? And
Yeah.
this
Yeah, I
is
think we've all
this is
heard
like a
that.
big thing that people do on like tourism down there. They go see the shaman, they drink it. It's like in a safe environment. They have to do like a cleansing. They can't have like caffeine and drugs in their body and stuff when they do it. And one of the shared experiences that they have when they take it down there is that they meet like a snake god, or like they have like a lot of visuals of snakes and stuff like that. And then you
Yeah,
look
no
at like
thanks.
ancient.
I would
Wait,
flip
is this the
That would
culture
be-
that's taking it themselves, or like random?
This is
tourists
like
and
me.
stuff?
If like me and you went,
Oh,
we
It's
would have a
travelers.
high probability, according to most of these reports, of seeing like a snake entity or snake god of some sort. But
But do you think that's because somebody talks about snakes and stuff? Like
Exactly.
It's already been put
Like,
in.
you're
yeah, but that's
walking
what I'm
through-
saying.
Like,
Like,
if
it's
you're
like a,
researching this, you're gonna think about that. Like,
correct.
Well,
Like
yeah.
it's like an
shit, I'm gonna
yes,
see a snake.
yes. And I don't know if there's actually any accounts of someone going in as like a control group and being like, you know. But so
well, that's what I'd like
Ta-
to hear. Is
talking back-
someone not being influenced by anything, not walking through a rainforest or with the tour guide with like talking about snakes
where
with a
you
snake
would
around his
expect
neck.
to see snakes.
And
Yes,
then-
exactly.
and then-
snakes on the trees.
yeah, yeah. Then you go in with a tent with like snake, like thing on the wall. Then it's like, okay, yeah, here's your shit.
Yes, correct.
What do you
So
think?
going back to like those research papers and stuff I was talking about, that's what a part of those studies was to find out, is this just like, is this an actual collective conscious experience, or is it just sort of like a cultural influence, or like
Yeah, that's
you know, like or your like a visual influence or whatever, like I forget what it's called, you know. And I think there are some people that without influence kind of encounter the same thing. But here's a one collective consciousness thing. They're still encountering an entity. It may not be like a specific entity, like a snake god or an elf, but it's still an entity. So that's still like a curious thing, instead of like experiencing, like, I don't know, like nothing.
yeah.
I think
People-
everybody that I've talked to that has tried, something obviously stronger than, let's say, weed, has told me, like even guys I know have taken shrooms, they have told me they saw, like, the devil in the fire, or, so, I mean, would you not consider that an entity? Like, the fire's talking to you?
I guess if it's communicating to you, yeah, I would. If you're just seeing things and it's not really like anything, it's like
Yeah, but this is like it's not a major thing that everybody thinks like that, because everybody's human. Humans are meant to have a guide. You're a baby,
You let your
have
mind
a guide.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It might just peel back all the layers that you've learned and to your core, which is, you need someone to guide you at the start of your life or whatever. Like this, it could just be a collective thing because everybody's human, and that's like a natural thing for us to go to and to visualize. Although I heard like DMT, scientists or researchers or whatever said that that's a lot of the alien accounts when people think they got abducted by aliens. It's actually some kind of natural occurring similarity to DMT. Not like someone's taking DMT and saying, "Oh, I got abducted by aliens," but it's the similar
Yes.
process, the similar
Like a chemical
hormones or whatever.
reaction
Yeah,
in the brain.
whatever. I don't
Like
know
they
what
find
it
like the
is
same like chemical
specific.
compounds in them when they test them.
Yeah, yeah. It's the same part of your brain activating, I guess.
Oh,
But
okay.
I don't know too much about it. It's just you get the
Okay.
point.
Isn't there a study that somebody was doing, and this goes back to there's I believe like a documentary on it. They're using DMT to microdose people off of their addiction to heroin.
Yeah, there's a
I
bunch
think
of
that
like
was
psychedelic studies right now
Yeah,
into
there's a
like.
lot of microdosing stuff.
So you brought up like seeing the devil and stuff. So when I was looking into this, I found a lot of parallels into religion, and they're kind of like if you were raised like Christian or like Catholic or whatever,
Yes.
you might be kind of like, oh fuck, maybe there's some fucking shit here, or maybe there's some tie-ins. So
For
you know
sure.
the story of like Adam and Eve. You know, they were
Yeah.
told they could eat from any tree in the Garden of Eden except for one tree, the tree of knowledge
apple.
of good and evil. However, a serpent, so that kind of like coincides back to like the serpent god. Like if then you look at like ancient Aztec beliefs where they always had like a some sort of serpent god or something. And then, you know, the serpent convinces Eve to eat the fruit from the tree and gave some to Adam. And then, you know, the serpent said to Eve, like, you will not die, for God knows that when you eat this, your eyes will open and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. So it's in, I guess in the, like the Bible, it says like fruit, but what if like fruit is just like a colloquial, like a term just to be like, whatever the tree bears as like, you know, as like something that you'd consume. And, you know, what if that happens? So like with ayahuasca, it comes from a tree. They take the leaves, you know, and so this is the interesting thing. This is kind of like a little science like note. It's like when you take the leaves of ayahuasca and you like mash them down and drink them, it won't actually do anything to you. Like they're full of DMT, but your stomach has enzymes in it that stop it from absorbing the DMT. So you'll just push it through your body and you won't actually get high. But what ayahuasca does is it mixes the leaves from another tree and they mash it together. So when you eat it or consume it or drink it or whatever, not only are you getting the DMT leaves and a crap ton of DMT in your stomach, but now you're also getting this other leaf that blocks the enzymes in your stomach from blocking. It blocks them, so now your body will absorb the DMT through your stomach, and then you get super high as opposed to just like smoking like DMT, like I don't know, through like a pipe or something.
Yeah, I'm sure you could inject it, snort it, or inhale it. Right? There's multiple ways to ingest it.
But it's just crazy that like so ayahuasca, like these ancient civilizations, figured out that by mixing this combination of leaves and stuff, allowed to the absorption of DMT and like enabled you to get high and have like these psychedelic experiences and like have like I guess for them it was like a religious experience and like I don't know, I guess it led to like all those sacrifices and like all those different kind of like religious traditions they have and shit down there.
Yeah, but the whole concept of the tree with Adam and Eve, like the tree isn't really the relevant part. The whole thing is like they were given a direction and then they were influenced by evil, right? That's it.
I'm just saying the parallels are kind of interesting,
Yeah,
and I don't know if
yeah.
they could be completely coincidental, or
Yeah, I'd say
you
they
know
are. I
whatever.
think that's the point, because you could take
just-
the tree and use it for whatever metaphor suits you. You know,
Yeah, I'm just saying.
you can say that about
Ayahuasca
weed.
comes from a
Yeah,
tree,
you can say
and
that-
they meet a
so-
snake
oh,
god, and a snake god.
Marijuana is a plant. It's the same, you know, the things that grow off of it, yada yada.
Yeah. You could say the same thing, kind of, but the only difference is
Yeah.
that it's a serpent on the tree in the Bible, and there's the snake gods in like the ayahuasca or like Aztec culture. So it's kind of like two serpent parallels, and the tree parallel. Like, and that's I don't know. That's the only little
Oh yeah.
tidbit
Oh,
of like.
I heard this other story about these four tribes. One of them was represented by snakes, and another one was called Hufflepuff. Snakes are evil all throughout history, man. Yeah, we get it.
Ravenclaw.
Yeah.
Okay, so I also found parallels to Christmas. So this is another tie into the episode 10
Is
Xmas
it still?
special.
Oh, good. We're moving away from DMT.
No, it's still kind of in that realm, but
Oh.
slightly moving away. This is getting more into like mushrooms, I guess. So
Oh, first of all, before I say anything about mushrooms, um, the one of these, which one was it? One of the CEO from Africa, Brett. Who is it? You know who it is.
I don't know. I sent that
He's
link, but I
he's
don't remember. Or
he's
maybe I
now.
didn't send the link.
Was that you that sent that? That he's now his next stock or bet is on mushrooms.
Yeah, it's on
And
mushrooms,
bigger on
and the reason that is because a lot of pharmaceutical companies have done a lot of research into the benefits of like psilocybin and different like
Yeah.
mushrooms on how to treat like post-traumatic stress disorder and how to like sort of so once the companies kind of come up with like enough case studies to show that hey, this benefits people with this and this, and then they can sort of start lobbying the politicians and the governments to be like decriminalize, legalize.
Definitely.
And then
Wait,
all of a sudden,
Sorry to
you know.
interrupt. Was this Bruce Linton
I think so.
from Canopy? Yeah, that's why. Sorry, that's huge, man. Remember when all these weed stocks came out, and Tweed was a little tiny company, the first actually weed company on the publicly traded.
Yeah, that's
And
why I
then
think people
turn
should.
turn into Canopy, fucking Afria, ACB, all those big ass companies, all
That's why you
competing
should
for
look at
market
these
share.
mushroom ones, man.
Oh, big time, big
It's
time.
because it'll start with pharmaceutical, like weed started with pharmaceutical,
Yeah.
right? Everyone wanted the
Yeah.
green card, this and that.
Yeah,
And then
Yeah.
over time, like after the green card happened, it was like, just make it legal, like make it
Yeah.
recreational. And they think because mushrooms isn't too far from like marijuana in terms of like classification, that it's
Yep.
like,
it's the next step.
it's
You
the
know
next
what's you know
logical
what's
step. Yeah.
you know what's funny? When I was on these weed stocks forums and stuff, when I was trading weed stocks back when these companies were blowing up and all that, uh, somebody made a subreddit called Cocaine Stocks and made me a moderator of it,
My
and I
God.
still am. And then, but his point is, and he's private messaging, he's like, dude, eventually cocaine is going to be legalized and we'll be moderators for this. Because this is just the first step. When it was legalized in Canada, he made it. And then I was like, cool, man. So it's exactly what he described, weed, then mushrooms.
That's
and
called
then,
playing the long game, buddy. The really
yeah,
fucking long
exactly.
game. Because I don't know how
Yeah.
far cocaine would be, but
Well, it just might be a freedom of body eventually. Like you could have whatever drug you want. It's your own body. Who knows?
you want to hear crazy?
If the more fucked up the world gets, the more in demand drugs are.
You want to hear a
Yeah.
crazy conspiracy theory as to why the states is reluctant to like legalize a lot of drugs, including marijuana?
Why? They don't want to admit they lost the war on drugs.
Apparently, well, that's probably a little bit of it, but apparently the CIA has a lot
For
of
Nixon.
has a lot of black book income. So they apparently deal a lot of arms to like different organizations for different reasons, and and that's been documented in some cases to like cartels and stuff.
Yeah,
But they think that they make a fuck ton of money off selling drugs as well. And they think that if they legalize it, it's going to hit them in the pocketbooks, and they don't want that to happen.
You think so?
So one of the
No.
big motivators to not legalize it is that the CIA doesn't want their black book budgets to be fucking impacted.
I don't
know.
think so.
When I heard that conspiracy theory, I was like, that makes the most fucking sense out of any other reason besides people just being like, it's immoral. I don't agree with it. I don't know. When it came down
think
to
it's
money,
I don't know, man. That's a very interesting theory, but I think it's more just to keep the political machine running. Like when people are arguing, the politicians are making
yeah, you
money.
need something to debate about too, right? You need stuff to change,
Yeah.
and you need stuff to argue about, or else there's no point in politics. If
Mhm.
everything's
But-
status quo all the time, then it's boring, and there's no need for change, and there's no need for, a
Yeah.
House of Commons to argue things, right?
Well, like I can understand that CIA theory, but we're talking about marijuana here. CIA, if they're dealing heavy shit for arms stuff, they're not dealing in weed. I guarantee you that.
well, maybe it was weed for a long time.
Well, if that's the case, then why wouldn't they throw the public a bone and say, "Oh, don't worry, weed's legalized. Leave our coke and heroin and opium and serious shit alone." and it's still definitely illegal. Now we could focus all of our police not fighting kids with roaches on the street, and they could start fighting people with heavy shit that's actually hurting people and
Well, I don't
destroying
know.
lives.
When you started seeing the rise of, like, when you saw legalization of weed, you started seeing like fentanyl roll in. So it's like you had something else come in.
No, it's the opposite,
Distraction.
dude. Fentanyl and opiate use go down significantly in all states that were legalized.
No,
Including,
I'm
like,
just like fentanyl didn't exist for the longest time, and then weed
it
starts
had
getting
nothing to
legalized.
do with the legalization of being weed.
I'm just saying they
Nothing.
had to like broaden their like
Not at all. Maybe that's the.
Or you
what
think
the
they just
public
put it
want-
in the
wants
news
you to
to
think.
distract
Yeah.
people? Like the
They're like,
deaths
yeah,
were
stop
probably already
worrying about
happening. The
weed.
ODs were there,
Yeah.
but it's like, hey, this is becoming a problem. And then it made
no, it's
weed
like
seem
it's like we lost a drug to make
substantially,
money off of. We need another drug to make money off of. So they came out with another one.
Hmm.
I don't know. That's the conspiracy theory. I don't know if it's true. I don't have the answers here. I'm just spitballing. I'm just saying things. You know.
Hmm. But I know that all like opiate use and deaths have gone on like down significantly.
Yeah,
With,
you see
the
that
more
anywhere, like
right.
decriminalization in Portugal.
important,
Like it went,
yeah.
it's a huge improvement because you create safer environments for people to use. They don't have to hide it. They don't have to go like a lot of drug addicts. They'll go into like quiet areas where they won't be found, so they don't get caught or arrested, right? But what happens is they'll go and do that. They'll overdose. They won't have anyone around them, no one to call the ambulance or whatever. Then they're just found dead. So when it's less scrutiny and like stuff like that, and people are able to do it in safer environments, and there's less things like that happening. You know, I don't know. It is what it is. Like they're going to do it no matter what. Do you want them to do it safely, or do you not want them to do it safely? And then cleaner as well. You know, shared needles, this and that, and the rest, right?
Yeah, definitely. But back to the original like point. Mushrooms, definitely a new market. You know,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
the first
That's the
first
next
little
step.
tiny
That's the next step.
inkling of a mushroom stock that's going near the open market onto Nasdaq or something like that, or TSX if it's going to be Linton. Then keep an eye on it because
Yeah,
that might
I think-
be the
I think-
next tweet. You know,
I
get
think
in early.
I think anything that doesn't have to be refined and like manufactured, it's just simply like grown. You know, like a plant, like a mushroom. It'll have like a very ease of entry into legalization. But I think things like cocaine and like
Yeah.
heroin that require like
Chemical,
sort of like
influence.
or just like like being refined basically. I
I
think
know
those will have like
Yeah.
more apprehension to them, and I don't know. Like I could see decriminalization at some point, but I don't know about legalization. It's hard to say. Maybe a little further down the road, but yeah. So going back to the parallels to Christmas, did you know Santa is a modern counterpart of a Siberian shaman who would consume mind-altering plants and fungi to commune with the spirit world? So they would dress similarly, I suppose. And the mushroom that he consumed, or that they consumed, was Amida mascaria, and it commonly grows under pine trees, aka Christmas trees. The shaman would collect the
I
shaman
love
would
all your comparisons.
the shaman would collect these mushrooms in a large sack and give them out as gifts for the winter solstice. Sometimes coming in through the roof of a snow-blocked home most of these villagers lived in like yurts, so like coming in through the top,
Yeah.
coming in through the top wasn't like uncommon.
No
So
way.
Yeah.
so, and then once they got these mushrooms, you know, villagers would hang them to dry. Similarly to modern day like Christmas ornaments, you know, they might even put them on a tree. Who fucking knows? Like, so
They probably didn't cut a tree down and bring it inside then. Do you think they did?
I don't know, maybe. I have no idea.
It's possible.
So then, and here's another thing: reindeer love them. They love to fucking eat them. They will be attracted to your urine.
That's
if
why
you
they can
ate
fly.
them and you piss them. They'll like try to like drink your piss. They'll come over like you on your piss on the ground and they'll like start licking it. So, and they think the hallucinogenic properties are responsible for people perceiving like reindeer
Santa's
flying.
by.
Yeah, and they've
Or
just
maybe
like,
that's why the reindeer actually fly. They eat those mushrooms.
Yeah.
but like you
it's
just
true.
be like tripping on mushrooms, laying down where a bunch of reindeer are hanging out, and you'd have like reindeer like walking over your body, like, oh my god, they're flying. you know, like, and
So
then
that's where
that
you
also
think the tradition of Christmas started?
I think
People just
there's
people
I thought it
multiple
was Coca-Cola.
Yeah,
there's
me
multiple
too.
like influences in different like sort of like pre-Christian like pagan cultures that adopt different things like mistletoe and like making wreaths and stuff like that. And then there's obviously like the Christian stuff that's supposed to be like for like the celebration of like Christ's birthday and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know, but like there's a bunch of like neo-pagan like beliefs from different cultures that have just been adopted into Christmas because there was a lot of people that were like, I guess like they were brought into Christianity, but they were like pagans. So they had a lot of like stuff they did around the winter solstice. So their traditions kind of just got baked into the celebration. So a
Hmm.
lot of stuff we do today without even knowing it is like, it's kind of like, like a lot of people that aren't like religious like celebrate Christmas, but like, which is kind of ironic.
Celebrate the
But then there's
presents.
also like, you're also like celebrating like paganism too, to like a certain extent. Like, look at Easter for an example. Like, what does it have to do with eggs and a rabbit? Like, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of it is like a mishmash of different like spiritual or religious beliefs, kind of like put into one. So, and that also like kind of like goes back into like the elves thing. Like, when people like do DMT, they meet the elves. Like, I don't know, maybe it's like on this hallucinogenic. Even though I don't think really people see like entities or talk to entities on like mushrooms, but maybe they did. I don't know. I've never done it. So maybe they speak to elves or some shit. Are you guys familiar with like Jacob Grimm, the guy that would write like the fucking like fairy tale and folklore books? Um, so he associated Santa Claus with like pre-Christian house spirits, kobolds, and elves, with like Saint Nicholas, which these spirits could be like malicious or benevolent. And then there's also like the Norse beliefs. So they think like Vikings would take mushrooms to kind of invoke like this excited delirium state where they would go into like the berserker rage. So a lot
Hmm.
of drug addicts will like experience excited delirium when they're facing off against the cops, and cops will report like, these guys have superhuman strength. Like, what the fuck? Like, what's wrong with this guy? So they think like the way the Vikings like invoked like berserker rage was like through
Hmm.
drug use or like the consumption of like mushrooms. But so then you look at Norse mythology, in a lot of stuff in like the Marvel movies kind of parallels this with Thor. So there's the rainbow bridge that connects the 9 realms, and then he uses the Bifrost to travel between them. So the rainbow bridge and the Bifrost actually is quite similar to like when you take DMT and you experience like that trip where you see like a bunch of like colors and like kaleidoscope colors and stuff, and you're just like zooming into like that next dimension. So it's like maybe the Bifrost or like the Rainbow Bridge in Norse mythology was actually like a psychedelic experience, like when they were about to like enter like this other realm or this other dimension. So, and in a lot of like these like North mythologies, they have like these dark elves and like these light elves that they meet in these different dimensions, and people report meeting elves in these dimensions, and they also report like malicious and benevolent entities. So I don't know. I just thought those are some cool parallels with psychedelics and drugs and all that fun stuff.
Well, I don't know. A lot of these things are just like comparisons on comparisons, and you relate them to a lot of things that you can
I-
expand on it kind of any way you want.
I'm just saying, wouldn't it be kind of, I don't know if it's cool, but wouldn't it be kind of interesting if
Hmm.
Norse mythology was just all based around the consumption of psychedelics and like mushrooms?
Well, that thing about Berserker Rage is interesting. Like, if they did discover a drug that they could just do that, and they just notice that in their soldiers, then you might be right.
But how
Yeah.
much of this like can you take? You know what I mean? Like I want like is there a test? There's a guy who's been taking mushrooms like for, you know,
There's people that
200
like
days in a row.
microdose it. I'm sure there's people that can probably take a fuck ton. I don't know.
No, but I mean microdosing probably doesn't mess you up that much.
No, probably
I
not.
think it's just like taking, just takes the edge off of your whatever stress or your addictions to other things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just curious, like if you're thinking that North mythology or whatever Norsemen we're doing that much. Like whatever, I watch Vikings. You can go with that. Yeah, they're eating mushrooms in there, but I mean they're not constantly and whatever. I understand the show, but like if that's all they were doing the whole time, I don't know if you'd be fighting, going to war.
No, I'm not
like,
saying they were doing it all the
doing all
time.
that
Like maybe
crap.
they would do it as like a ritual, right? Like it's like, okay, we're about to
Yeah,
storm
they
this
know it
village.
invokes they know it invokes
Yeah,
the,
like the day
the
before or
chemicals.
something. Like
Yeah.
yeah. But
You know, and they all just like
I
start
don't
like
think
doing these mushrooms and they psych each other out and they get like, I don't know, like bloodlust or whatever, you know, and they just start going in and they just fucking with the power
maybe.
of like psychedelic high and fucking excited delirium with like super strength, they're able to just like conquer anything. They're taking
sure.
arrows and shit and they're just like, fuck it, like I don't feel it because I'm high as
Yeah.
fuck, and they just keep going.
For sure. Well,
I
it'd be
don't know.
naive to think
Well,
that all like
yeah.
armies throughout history didn't use some type of drugs
of course,
for their soldiers and shit, even for like pain, whatever, everything.
I'm sure
Yeah.
they did, but there's a limit. That's
I don't
what
know.
I would.
I just when I see like these kind of like parallels, it's kind of like I'm not thinking like the paranormal or the supernatural is real. What I'm saying is it's fucking interesting that maybe like a lot of this stuff in that we see in religion or like spiritual beliefs, how much of it, because a lot of these stories we like in the religious texts are pretty supernatural, right? Like they're very extravagant stories. And it's like how like my scientific mind says none of those are true. I don't believe in any of it. And then it's like, well, then what is the causation of them? Did it just come from nothing, or did it stem from some sort of weird, human experience with a psychedelic? And it's
I'm
like,
sure there's also a lot of broken telephone with a lot of the stories that you're hearing or reading up on, right? Like, where did this information come from?
yeah.
Yeah.
There's an
Especially
interesting
based-
book out there. It's called, I think it's called The Sacred Cross and the Mushroom. And it kind of tries to, I think it speaks to a lot of the parallels between, or the possibility of the influence of psychedelics in the formations of religion.
Well, also, like, I mean, listen, I don't do any of that stuff. Like, I barely, like, smoke weed. Just personal preference. I drink. That's my main vice.
Yeah, brother, that's my main too.
Right? But, I mean, I think if I was around in an era where there was no, I don't know, distractions, cell phones, TVs, internet, all this kind of crap, when you're down, your main goal is shelter and food.
Yeah.
You're going to have a lot of downtime, and if you see a mushroom in the forest, you're probably going to pick it up and eat it.
You're going to make the stupid guy in the
Like-
village eat it first.
Yeah,
And then
you're gonna
he's
you're gonna
okay.
make something eat it, and then you're gonna be like, okay, he's all right, and then you're gonna just eventually eat plants.
Damn, that
That's
stupid
how
guy's
this
really
shit
strong
ended up.
now. Fuck.
Like, yeah, give me some of
The
that.
stupid guy just
Like-
pretends it's awesome as he's dying. He's just like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, tricked you.
Yeah, it's a
fuckers,
great
you died."
mushroom. You guys should all have it. And that's how the first cult was started. Right?
Did you know what they used to think tomatoes were poisonous?
I did hear
Because
that.
it's red.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then someone ate them and proved they weren't or some shit. But they also, if you kind of cut them open and look at them, it kind of looks like it would be poisonous.
What was this?
Yeah.
Oh, so there's this book. I don't remember what it is, but anyways, these people like kind of travel into this other kind of land that was sealed off for so long because this border's coming down between them. One's like a magical world, one is the normal world. So all magic was separated, put on this other side of this border. Whatever. He goes over there. He has like a bunch of food and rations and shit. Meets somebody and he goes to offer her an apple, and she like freaks out or whatever and thinks that he's trying to poison her because all the fruit and poisonous things in their land are red. So like anything poisonous is red. That's just like their
That's
fucking
the rule of thumb. Yeah.
Yeah. So it causes all this like politics and shit between them.
I think you got to see somebody eat it. Be like, no, I'm not eating that. Like, let me watch you.
Yeah, you
have
gotta
that
like
first.
maybe feed it to the animals.
Like, you have to
first or
prove
something.
them, especially if you know it's
Yeah.
not just way.
Definitely. There always had to be a first for everything.
Yeah,
A lot of
I
people
mean,
died along the way to discovering what we could eat.
Oh,
Yes,
for
of
sure.
course.
For sure.
Is that fucked up? Like,
And
to
there's
think
still
about it?
people
Like,
doing that even currently.
I guess it
Yep.
can't. It
Right.
probably would have came from desperation too, right? Because it's like, fuck, we have nothing to eat.
Yeah.
Like, can we eat this? I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, we're dead anyway.
Yeah, of course. That's
Fuck,
why it's like
so
eat
a
it.
tiny bit or whatever.
And then if you live, it's like, fuck yeah, we live. We can live forever now because we have this food.
Yeah, if you discover
Yeah.
something new. I don't
A
know
lot of
how,
them are
like,
just
whatever.
like, yeah, they're just poisonous. Someone will eat them and then, oh, that guy's a little bit sick from it. Oh, you get a little sick from eating these. Don't eat these. Like I felt pretty shitty. Oh, I did too. Oh, fuck, this guy ate 4 of them. Like, oh man, he was like throwing up. Oh, this guy ate 5. Like he's fucked up too.
Yeah.
And then it's like,
Just see.
you know what I mean?
This is,
It's
well,
like,
That's
it's
how
like
we
yeah, I ate
discovered alcohol.
Yeah,
It was just like,
someone ate a handful and they're dead. Okay, these things are definitely poisonous, guys. Don't eat them.
that's when you realize, look, there's an animal over there. He's
Yeah,
alive. We could
that's
probably kill him and eat him and not
yeah.
die.
We can
'Cause
add
he's
him to that
living.
fire.
He can't be
Remember that?
poisonous.
Remember that fire that Frank discovered last week? We just add the animal to the fire, and we're good.
Yeah.
that's part of the reason why they think our brains developed so quickly through like history was that the cooking food to release like nutrients in the food and how led to like faster, stronger brain
Oh, yeah?
development. And they also
That's the only
think
difference.
maybe there's also a stoned ape theory where they think, going back to psychedelics and mushrooms, they think that maybe, early hominids like eating psychedelic mushrooms expanded their minds and brains to be able to like form tools and wheels and cultivate fire. Yeah.
They tasted meat and they're like, how can we get more of this quicker?
I don't think so, because from the whole theory that we're developed from a single cell organism and then mutations and stuff, and the whole Darwinism concept, then that doesn't really make sense because you've been gradually developing the whole time.
What do you mean? What do you mean? doesn't
I
make
just mean
sense?
like you're like humans, the way they're developed, just kept developing and developing until there's one kind of alpha, essentially. That's
Yeah.
how everything happened over time. Dependency and getting along, and eventually it was like, oh, intelligence is actually a better survival tool than strength. But what if you had kind of like both? And then that was just the alpha organism that developed and developed and developed into what we are today.
There was other like
That's all it
subspecies
is.
of humans that evolved though along the same like lineage from like
Yeah,
common
and that's why they're not here
ancestors.
anymore, because
There was Neanderthal, Homo
survival of the fittest, right?
floresiensis, and a few
Yeah.
others. And
But it's-
some people actually have like 5% Neanderthal DNA in them to this day.
yeah, well, it's like brown bears up in Alaska, you know? Oh, it's getting really cold up here, and there's snow everywhere, and there's a whole lot of brown bears, but oh, this genetic mutation caused a white bear. Oh, this white bear is actually getting a lot more meat and stuff because it can't be seen in the snow. And then pigments in their future generations change, and it's like, oh, there they adapted, and now there's just polar bears dominating there because of their fur. Oh, strength and whatever. That's just like how humans became where we are today. It's the same way. It's the survival of the fittest, and the best traits go on.
But we were the only species on the planet to develop to the extent that we did. Nothing else really did except for like hominids. So I feel like there has to be like other factors that, like cooking food. I mean, other animals probably eat psychedelic mushrooms, so that could probably be discounted. But the cooking of food isn't really common spread amongst the animal kingdom. So it's like maybe it did contribute to like the release of nutrients and like, I don't know,
Yeah. Well,
expansion of the
but
brain.
that's the whole thing, though. Like, to get to the point of cooking food, you needed some degree of intelligence already. Like, I don't think that the food itself, expanded the human brain that much, or expedited its learning throughout history.
Well,
by any
you're able
means.
to release a lot more nutrients in the food as opposed to eating it raw. So when
Oh,
it
I
came
see.
to like, let's say you
Like,
have
just
like
digesting it. Wasn't that
Yeah.
like the big thing?
you
You
eat,
didn't have to
you're,
chew it so much or whatever to
you're-
break it down.
you're eating the
Yeah, but-
normal amount,
quicker.
but you're getting more bang for your buck out of the normal amount. So
For sure. Everybody knows that. But, like, okay, lions and wolves and all kinds of shit eats meat.
yeah,
And humans, when they're eating meat, let's say they're like monkeys or whatever, when they like, oh, I could use fire and cook the meat and then you get more nutrients, it might have snowball effect their
Yeah.
development.
they
But
probably
at that
didn't
point,
even know they were getting more
when they
nutrients.
know
They probably
that-
just
yeah,
thought it
but-
tasted better or something.
maybe, yeah, exactly, maybe. But at some point, they had to be intelligent enough to start fire and add meat to it. Like,
Yeah, it's weird how like so it's like
It's
from
inevitable,
that point
like,
to that next point.
yeah.
They think that like chimpanzees and stuff are like currently in the Stone Age now because they've witnessed them using like spears and different things like tools. It's kind of like that's like the early
Who
Stone Age for
knows?
them.
Oh, you mean like wild chimpanzees?
Yeah, so they've seen like an orangutan use like a
Yeah.
pointed stick over a river to kind of like spear a fish. They've seen like, monkeys use sticks into like, termite
Antholes.
mines and antholes
Yeah.
and stuff. And it's kind of like, okay, that's early tool use. Like they're kind of like making tools, like
Yeah.
very like sort of like
Yes.
if they're sharpening it, then it's a tool. But if they're just picking up a stick they found, maybe it's just sort
Yeah.
of like interacting with the environment. But
Yeah. Unfortunately, we won't see any change in our lifetime.
unless we start cooking food for them.
It's also very different because monkeys can witness humans doing things, and it's introduced to their kind of learning. You know,
Yeah.
they're like monkey see, monkey do kind of thing. There's too much human influence to judge where a species is in the scale of time compared to humans right now, I think.
But if we could teach them and it becomes sort of like indoctrinated into like their behavior, then it sort of does like act as like, I don't know, like evolution in a way. Like they're just interacting with another animal. It's like teaching them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I don't know, boys. That's pretty much all I got, I think, for today. That's all I got on the docket here.
Thought you were
It's
gonna
like
have
you
more
read us.
Christmas stuff.
More
Yeah,
Christmas
it's
stuff.
like
Nah, I think I don't know. I could close by like, okay, how about we do a thought experiment?
Okay.
In this thought experiment, you have to run under the pretense that you believe in the supernatural. Okay?
Okay. All right.
You have to believe in the supernatural. It's not about your personal opinion in this thought experiment. You have to pretend to be a woo believer, okay?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. So, let's say
Okay, wait. I'm network. Say it. I'm network.
okay. You take DMT and you're not going through it rationally. You're not thinking about it as like a physical experience where it's a chemical being introduced to your body. It's interacting with your brain in this way. It's causing this sort of chain reaction to happen in your brain. And now you're hallucinating. Instead, you're seeing it as you're opening a portal to another dimension and you are seeing something, you're having a spiritual like event happen to you. And then you meet this entity or entities and they claim to be you and also God. Okay? They give you special knowledge, but it's at a cost of something, and you don't actually know this exchange is happening, but that you know full-heartedly going into this experience that nothing is free, and there has to be some sort of equivalent exchange. So, what would you lose if you believe in like the supernatural souls and all that stuff? When you go into a spiritual experience that gives you something equivalent to an ego death and gives you personal knowledge about yourself to improve your life. And what would that entity be if you believed in this stuff? What price would you pay?
What would I be
this
willing
entity
to
be?
lose?
Yeah. Like what part of your soul or like your being or like who you are?
I think if it's like gonna let me see into the future almost, or see my future, should I say?
It says it gives you some knowledge about, like, let's say it says you drink too much.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to lose the ability to drink like alcohol from that point on?
Like, would I like if I didn't stop, I know the outcome? You're saying?
Okay, I'll put it to you this way. So you as you are now,
Mm-hmm.
a part of you and like me and you are similar. Like drinking is like a part of us. Like it's like a part of our culture, our identity. Sure. Like we enjoy it. We enjoy drinking with other people. We enjoy,
Yes.
the laughs and the good times.
I hear you. Yeah.
You go into this experience and it tells you that's a bad quality about you. Despite all the like love, joy, friendship, laughter that it's given you, it's telling you it's a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then after this experience, from that point on, you've decided based off this experience that you no longer want to drink. So you've lost, in a way, a part of
The
your
interest
soul.
or enjoyment of it. Yeah.
You've lost a part of your soul. What do you think you would lose talking to this entity? In other words, what do you think is the most negative part of you? That what you would call yourself out on. And I mean, if it's too personal, don't share it.
I don't.
If it's too personal, don't say
I don't
it.
have anything specific, to be honest. I kind of I understand what you're saying, but I also don't really. I mean, we're using this example. Maybe it's not the best example to use. That's the way I'm starting to think about it.
Do you think you would encounter an angel, a demon, an alien, or an interdimensional being?
That would tell me that?
Yeah.
Oh, that would most likely be an angel, I would think. Like, I definitely...
Yeah, I would think it would be an angel.
Like, if it's something that's being helpful to me, I would assume it would be. Because I don't see that as being a negative thing if I'm using that example.
It's a double-edged sword, though, because you don't actually know. You go in with the perception that what it's telling you is a good thing, that it's calling you out on your bullshit. But what if your bullshit actually isn't your bullshit? You know? What if it's just like something you think is your bullshit? So like the scientific, like if you want to go into the material world thought about it, when you go into these experiences, it's just you and yourself calling you and yourself out on your bullshit. So you may not actually have bullshit, you might just believe it to be bullshit. So when you think you drink too much, maybe you don't actually drink too much, or maybe you don't actually smoke too much, or maybe you don't actually whatever, you just think hard about yourself, or you're like tough on yourself. So you come out of that experience a different person, but maybe you're a different person, not for better, but for worse. That's
because maybe I would judge other people on that. I don't know. I don't see it as a... I don't know. I guess I can't get into the body of it.
I don't know, man. If I was, like you said to your original thing, if I was a believer in the paranormal and I took this knowing I was having this experience and I truly wanted to know what kind of guide I would have and what they would say and be very critical about it, I would say an angel, just like Tommy said. And I'd say, well, this thing happened to me. So when I had cancer, I had chemotherapy, I had a couple of surgeries or whatever, and everything ended up being okay. It didn't like really spread as far as they thought. My chemo was successful, blah blah blah. The whole time I was really sick, I kept like promising to God, oh, I promise if I get better, I'll be a better person. I promise I'll go to church on Sunday. I was like promising God the moon. And then once I got
said
better,
which Sunday.
I didn't do that. Yeah, I didn't do that at all. And I feel like I'm like, oh, since I'm better, I just like promised the moon, but didn't fulfill it. So I think an angel would call me out on that and saying, hey, like, you got to follow through on your promises to people in general. You know, I think that's not a good quality.
Deep. That's deep as fuck, man.
There's a.
It's just like a bad quality I'd say of myself is, oh yeah, I'm down, and then just not care enough about like friends or family and stuff, and be kind of do my own thing.
Isn't it weird that like in our times of desperation, it's like we dig deep into like something beyond ourselves because it's just so outside of our control. Like I remember like when my mom was sick, man, I would pray to like a God that I didn't even know was real or not. Every day,
exactly.
Like asking for like,
yep,
like a miracle or something, just like some sort of like weird, because you hear about it like instant remission, like miraculous remission, like remission of like cancer, like it happens, like you hear the stories and stuff, and then you're kind of like, well, if it's happened once, it can happen twice, type of thing. I don't know the special circumstances or if any that applied to that other person it happened to, if it did at all, but it's kind of like you just keep praying, but then. I don't know, man. Sometimes, like, I don't know, lightning doesn't strike for you, so you don't know what to think of it. I don't know. It's a tough thing.
Yeah, I don't know. As humans, if you're actually put in that situation, like, as soon as I'm just sticking on to what Scott said. Once you feel better, you're like, okay, I'm good. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to... You don't have to pay your debts anymore that you promise to yourself because you're the only one that knows it.
You know what? You know what it reminds me
Versus,
of, and I find it so hilarious. That episode of Rick and Morty where he has like the collars where it's like it's him, Morty, and Summer, Rick, Morty, and Summer, and they have to remain like constant. And the moment they divert, they're not like consistent or something. Like they make a split reality.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and the channel kept splitting.
Yeah,
and
and it kept
splitting,
splitting.
and
It kept splitting. Kept splitting. And then
yeah, there was like
and then eventually he gives Morty his collar. And then he's like falling through like this dimension, and it's like he sees like a cat, and then he sees the collar. But like before he sees the collar, he's like, "Please God!" And like, and he doesn't believe in God at all. Like he's like,
Yes,
you know what I
yes,
mean?
yes.
Like he's a super scientist.
he constantly says that.
And then
"Yeah,
like
fuck you,
as
Dad, I was just joking the whole time.
yeah. And then like
Yeah.
as he's about to die, he's like, "Please God in heaven Almighty, please spare my life." And then he's like, "The collar." He's like, he fixes it. Like he does like science real quick or whatever, and he puts it together. And then he like gets to the work. He's like, "Fuck yeah!" He's like, "Fuck you, God!"
Yeah.
Like I'm out of here.
Everything's
It's
good,
like-
yeah.
And it's like
Yeah.
it's kind of like it's like the religious person would be like, "Oh, his prayers were answered," but then the scientific person would be like, "No, his prayers weren't answered. He figured it out." You know, it's
Yeah,
kind
of course,
It's
yeah.
like it's just
Yeah. It just shows that
Definitely.
praying to God is like, okay, I did everything else I could, and now things are out of my hand. I don't feel in control, so I look to something else. That's what God is.
yeah.
And then once it is in your control and you can do something about it, and it's tangible, then it's like, okay, I don't need God.
It's
Yeah.
a weird thing, man. It's a fucking strange thing.
Yeah.
We're strange creatures.
Yeah.
Anyway, boys, thanks for joining me on episode 10, the Xmas special.
Xmas special
Got
with very
surprisingly
little
deep and
Xmas.
religious there on, but
Yeah.
I guess that coincides with Christmas, so that's perfectly fucking on point for the
Good
episode.
way, yeah.
Little paranormal Christmas Xmas. X in Roman numerals means 10, so episode 10. Oh, I just want to talk about what we're going to. So the whole goal of this podcast was to hit 10 episodes when I first started. And I kind of wanted to do like every episode with a different person that I knew. But, you know, as you go along the way, schedules are tight with different people. Some people aren't comfortable doing it. And I don't blame them for that. Like it is what it is. Like people have, you know, jobs where they can't really speak to certain things and do certain stuff. Right. But, and, you know, but I made it work. You know, we got to episode 10 and I didn't know if I was going to continue it on from this point out. I was kind of like debating on it, and I was going to kind of like ask you guys what you think should like go forward with the podcast. So recently, like last week, because I didn't get an episode out, I decided to like expand it into like Google Podcasts, which was actually like a really simple thing to do. So it's not like it was like a major improvement or anything like that. But now it is available like on Google searches and stuff like that. So it should
Oh, nice.
possibly come up like on Google searches. Plus, like I think Google
Nice.
Podcasts is like free as opposed to Spotify, where a lot of people don't have that app or download that app.
Access it, right?
Yeah, so I think it's like more easily accessible through Google Podcasts.
Yeah.
I was looking at Apple Podcasts, but I could do that, but I kind of like I have like a personal beef with Apple, so I just like I just kind of like boycott them
I
out
don't
of
use them
principle.
either, so
I boycott them out
Just
of
do
principle.
YouTube too, man. It's free.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about doing YouTube, just
Yeah,
kind of like putting
why
the
not?
audio on YouTube. And then the thing I like about YouTube is that it's sort of like automated revenue stream if it gets to enough viewers or subscribers.
Yeah.
Is that they just automatically put the ads on there, and then I guess it just goes into like your PayPal account or whatever. It literally requires like no effort on my part besides hitting a button that says like approve for monetization.
Yeah, and YouTube Premium,
Right.
people are actually listening to podcasts more on, even though YouTube Premium is bullshit, but people still buy it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah,
like
I
it'll be like free
see
on
the
there.
point.
So you know, if they throw a couple ads on there, it's probably a good idea. So I think so YouTube's probably a good idea. And the other thing with like Apple Podcasts, because I did kind of dive down that hole to see what it would be like. So putting it on Google Podcasts and like Spotify Podcasts doesn't require like a whole lot of effort, but like Apple wanted like so much of my personal information before I like just put it on there. So like for putting on Google Podcasts was basically 2 simple clicks of a button. It was just like approve, like there, done. It just goes from like the RSS feed onto Google. No problem, just like automated. And then there's a tab for like Apple, and I thought it was going to be the same thing. I was like, oh, this is super easy. Like, why didn't I do this before? And then it was just like, no, we want you to make like an Apple account, and then all this. So we want all this information associated with it as well. And it's kind of like, I don't know. I've avoided you this long. I don't know if I want to bite the bullet just yet. But then they do have like the Apple Pod, like you can see like the ranked podcasts and like the world and like what number you're at and stuff like that. And so I don't know. There might be, and there is a lot of people that use Apple products like religiously.
Of course,
so,
yeah.
You know, if I
But
want
I
to
mean, they
reach
also
them,
use, like you said, Spotify and YouTube. Like everybody uses YouTube.
yeah. So maybe baby steps.
Everybody.
I don't know. We'll do YouTube.
So, I mean,
So
it's
we can
something
do
to consider in the future. But just keep going the way you want to go. Don't overwhelm yourself.
Do you guys think I
You
should
know.
continue on with this? Keep it going?
Definitely.
Of course.
Well, like, why not? You got nothing to lose. And it's
Okay, so then I
I
think
mean,
the next commitment then after this episode is to do 15 more for a total of 25. And I think that makes
Whoa,
it like,
that's ambitious.
well, I don't know, where do you go
went
from 10?
Yeah.
Where do you go 10 to
Definitely.
25? I don't
Just
know. What do you do,
whatever.
20?
One at a time. That's it. Sure.
25. I
Just
like. I
keep
feel like if
going.
you do 20, then it's just doing the same thing you did, but you got to like kind of increase it a bit. I don't
Yeah,
know.
true. 25, good number, man.
And if
Try
you,
and get just a variety of people on here. Be good.
yeah, I'm going to try to get
Yeah.
like more guests of like significance of people that do stuff that kind of pertains more to like the like nature's like science and
Yeah.
biology, maybe some
Yeah.
paranormal stuff, because that's what's, you know what, it's interesting, man. People love to talk about it, people love to listen to it, and when I use those, like when I have that stuff mentioned in my podcast and I can put those keywords into my podcast,
Mhm.
they get more views than a lot of other stuff. So I like to kind of like,
It's true.
and I find it interesting and fun to talk about, as you know. So it's like it's not a bad thing to lean into sometimes, you know.
Yeah, true.
I
Well,
mean,
it's-
you can only
it's
talk
really
so
fun.
much about like nature and wildlife. I mean, it's not like a constant news cycle on it, right? So I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like I have to kind of like broaden my horizon. So I feel like the paranormal stuff with like, you know, aliens and like, you know, Bigfoot, you know, the Beast of J Vudon and that kind of stuff, and like psychedelics and all that stuff. It's fun and to talk about. It's cool thought experiments. So that'll kind of be like the direction of the podcast. It'll be primarily like wildlife, environment, you know, that kind of stuff. Then a little bit of like, you know, space, nature, but then you know, outdoor recreation, and then the paranormal.
Then
'cause paranormal's fun.
episode 25. The Drake equation, is it bullshit or not? Network for Smith.
The great debate. Like
Yeah, you have 15 episodes to prepare.
I could
The
debate
great
the shit
debate.
out of that. I could go for.
And Tommy will moderate, and we'll have an official debate.
Tommy will sit there on his phone like a piece
I'll
of
listen
shit,
with
like
my
this
mic off.
podcast.
Hey, listen, you guys are talking about a lot of stuff that just doesn't interest me. It's not something
All
that
right,
I
what
think
interests
about a
you? $400
I mean-
spent at the drive-through at Tim Hortons on Honky cards?
lot. Well, who was that, dude? Was it a nice van at least?
No, it wasn't.
No. Well, there's a problem. That guy's got some money, dude.
I couldn't
Get it
fucking
good.
believe it, man. I rolled up to it. I was just like, that guy just paid 50
Yeah, but
bucks.
you know
I was
what?
like,
You
that
know
was
what
the
people
taxes.
do with that? That's
That's
it's
crazy.
crazy. But people they buy them as like Christmas gifts to give to their nephews.
I know,
or
man.
some
Th-
shit
Dude, it
that,
looked
right?
like they were handing him like
But
bricks,
it's,
like a brick of cocaine. They're just like, here, get out of here.
Yeah. No, definitely.
So I got a
maybe
card
they're just
addiction,
all
leave
about
me
those
alone.
Tim Biebs.
Yeah,
Maybe that's all they wanted.
couldn't fucking
Those
believe
things
it,
are
man.
expensive, dude.
Dude, the
Find a
whole-
toque, you can resell them. They're apparently gone.
Really?
Dude,
thinking about-
$29.99 for that shitty tote bag. Oh my god, I was laughing.
Yeah,
at
but
that.
nobody
See
wants
that?
anything but the toques. That's the
Yeah,
everything else is
fuck
there
yeah.
apparently, but the toques
Dude, it's
are.
a fanny pack, like a pouch, a stupid tote bag that costs like $1 for $25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. The
And
tote
then-
doesn't
and
go
then
only
the
thing. Looks
tube.
like it's gonna break. You can't even put groceries in it. It fucking falls apart.
Oh yeah.
Dude,
No,
I was thinking
don't
about getting
even
the
see
tube too, because I thought it'd be
bonus
like a
on those.
novelty thing. But then I was also thinking like, oh, you could resell them. But I was like, I'm not gonna resell shit. Like, what am I talking? about?
No, I mean, you know what though? I'll tell you, like, if you bought them, like, you'd have a ton of people that want them for their kids or just for their family. Like, they'd be happy because I was talking to some people and they're like, yeah, I've been trying to get it for my kids for Christmas, but
Jeez.
they're just not there.
Just a hat
was like,
with
holy
a
shit.
patch on it. You can make the patch, man. You take the logo.
I mean, I went to the dog park and I saw some kids wearing it, and I was like, wow, okay, like they're into it. Like it's if you're in high school, that's the rage.
That's such a
I
fucking
think
Canadian
that's where it ends,
thing,
though.
bro. This is like a Canadian thing. Like, it's
But
just
they're
like,
selling it to the
Timmy
states
Pat,
because
want
people
my
in the
dude,
states like
want my fucking
Bieber,
dude.
but they don't
don't
got
have
the
Timmy's.
Timmys over there.
Hilarious.
Not like that.
Hilarious, bro. You could have made money off that. You could have bought a bunch of.
Well, it's just like the PlayStation 5. I'll wait. Well, first of all, I'm not waiting for the Bieber hat or the PlayStation 5 anyway. But if you really want it, I'm never overpaying for anything like that.
Yeah.
I don't see
same.
the point.
Same.
Like,
That's why I'm
okay,
not getting
come
it.
out.
You know what I did want though? They had a Roots keychain at Tim's not too long ago. I wanted it and I never bought it, and now I regret
Dude,
it.
oh yeah. And they have a Christmas
A
ornament.
Roots keychain?
Yeah, they had a Roots like leather like keychain. Like you would just put it onto like your keys, and it said Roots
had
on
it?
it. Tim's.
Why would they
Tim's.
have? That's weird.
I don't know. They did like some sort of collab. Why would Moosehead have a sweater?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
doesn't make any sense.
Bieber used to play his guitar before he got famous in front of a Tim Hortons, so that's why it makes sense to me. It's the only reason it makes sense. That's
He's
don't
also
know,
just like a
Roots? I don't know.
Canadian, and
It's
it's just like
Canadian
this is
too.
a Canadian company owned by Americans, so I don't know.
this whole country's owned.
So kind of just like Bieber. Because I'm pretty sure his
That's
label's
what
like
you like.
American.
Is it just you
Anyway,
and me
boys.
here?
No, Scott's here. He's just.
Here,
Oh,
listen,
that's
you
weird
guys
because
talk
I'm looking at
about
the
Justin
clean feed
Bieber.
and all I see is your name there,
Mm.
and I don't see.
They're like,
Alright.
oh,
Scotty.
big Canadian company, big Canadian artists. I wonder why they're collabing.
Okay. Boys, any last thoughts? Any last words?
Boycott
No,
Biebs.
well, Merry Christmas, guys.
Merry Christmas,
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
Yes.
New Year. Will there be a New Year special? That's what you need to pull off.
I think
Yeah.
that New Year's
Oh
special.
01, 22.
Oh, the first episode of the new
Seth
year.
Rogen.
Seth Rogen. Special. Could you imagine this like somehow like
Dude, you need to find people with podcasts slightly better than yours, with like 30 views an episode, and say, hey, I'll do an episode on yours if you do an episode on mine. We're both
And
nature
just-
themed. Let's go.
and just keep doing that. Just climb.
Just
the
private
pyramid.
message them, dude. Do your own fucking research and find people. It's easy.
So if there's anybody listening to this that has their own podcast that's half decent,
Any of
'Cause
you
mine's
6
a piece of
people, give my
garbage.
boy Network a call.
you can find me on Instagram at Epyon Explorers. EPYONEXPLORES.
There you go.
And send me a message, and we'll do an episode. It'll be great.
High level.
Yeah, guys, this is gonna be really fun. Okay.
Hold on to your hats.
Okay, that's it. That's the closer.
All right, cut it.